Hi, good morning everyone. This is Dylan Yarborough, the audiology specialist here at Consult Search. I'm joined by Claire, who is the Managing Director and owner of Bright Ears. So Claire, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hiya, so as Dylan said, I'm Claire and I'm the owner and creator of Bright Ears, which makes inclusive dolls, so dolls with hearing aids, stomas, feeding tubes, that sort of thing. Basically, my daughter is deaf. She wears hearing aids, and when she was about 1.5 years old, I wanted to get a doll for her, and I thought it'd be nice to get one with hearing aids. But when I looked in the shop, there's nothing there. There was nothing online. It's a bit saddening, really, because it just felt like she wasn't. Society didn't see her as worthy enough to be represented.
Yeah.
So I thought, how can I change this? So I thought I'd make her a doll with hearing aids, which is what I did, and then. Couple of my friends asked if I could make a doll for them, and then it sort of snowballed from then, and that's kind of how it was born. So it's a bit incidental, really. It wasn't my intention.
And again, it's almost seeing that gap in a market from a business perspective, but actually from very much more of an emotional perspective of trying to be inclusive. And I think, speaking for myself as a parent as well, Claire, we always want our children to feel valued and accepted, regardless of any disability or ethnicity. So that was what really prompted you then to create this company, was the fact that your daughter suffers from hearing loss then. And how has that been then for your daughter and living with hearing loss, and from her perspective, but also from your side, Claire, as a mother, how have you found that, helping to, bring up a daughter with hearing loss from an inclusivity standpoint? How has that been?
There's no history of hearing loss in our family. So when Tilly was born, it was a huge shock. Obviously, never having sort of really been in contact with anyone from the deaf community. You don't know what's going on. There's no one out there to sort of help you from that respect of like someone coming from the deaf community. You sort of have all the audiologists, teachers of the deaf and everything. That's kind of from a medical perspective.
Yes.
And you sort of, it's a bit of a shame really that when your child is diagnosed as being deaf, that the first people I think you should come in contact is somebody from the deaf community that can sort of reassure you that this isn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of fear around the words deaf, because people have these preconceptions that if you're deaf, that's it, you'll never achieve anything in life, and it's wrong really, because that's not true at all. A lot of stigmas around hearing aids still and stuff, so it's just trying to put it out there that actually it's not a huge deal really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just touching on that stigma, I mean, specialising in this market, not only from a recruitment perspective, but also from a social standpoint as well. There is that massive stigma still associated with hearing aids and hearing loss. And whilst that is reducing, I think what we're looking now for the market to go towards in the next sort of decade or so is the way that hearing aids are not only part of helping someone to hear, but also actually becoming a part of a way of life, so to speak, with a lot of AI technology. And there are also a lot of people in the market use the term helpable rather than a hearing aid. It's almost becoming a way of life. And I think what we saw with glasses, I mean, back when I was a child or at school, you sometimes be ridiculed if you wore glasses. Nowadays, it's kind of seen as a fashion statement with some of the lenses and some of the frames.
Yeah, you get clear lenses now for glasses,
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we're hoping as an industry that it's going to go. But I do think that technology is going to help that. But I think there's such a massive part to be played from an inclusivity standpoint, especially with the younger generation where hearing loss isn't so common. So I think that's really important. I think that's why I was really keen to obviously sit down and have a chat about your company today, because it is such a topical condition in the market, which needs to be addressed. And certainly I think, using our platforms that we have, we can certainly, help and do some good from that respect. Who was your first customer apart from your daughter?
So it was mothers through the National Deaf Children's Society. So it's friends I'd made through there.
Yeah.
I don't advertise as such. Everything is done by word of mouth. So it's all spread through, parents saying, "Oh, I've got this doll. It's it's really helped my child to feel less different." And then it passes. Someone else says, "Oh, well, I like to get my child that." So it's kind of just sort of spreads.
And I think just touch on the routes to market for Bright Ears. Again, from a business perspective, what sort of platforms do you use to sell your dolls? Aside from Etsy, do you use any other platforms as a route to market for selling the dolls?
No, it's just Etsy. Business-wise, that's not my area of expertise. I'm rubbish at all that stuff, so it's just through Etsy.
Just through Etsy.
It's simple. People know the name, so it's got that sort of trust value about it, and it's an easy platform to use. So it makes sense just to sort of go with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess from obviously when we spoke, you mentioned that Bright Ears is a not-for-profit company. So with I guess any profits that you make from selling the dolls, does that just go back into the manufacturing process? How does that work?
So there is no profit. Basically, the cost of the item is just for the materials and labour and Etsy fees. That's it. There is no profit as such, which is, I kind of find myself in a catch-22 situation there, because there is sort of, I could do with buying more equipment and stuff, which would help me expand the range, but obviously there isn't the money there to do this. So it's but the reason behind a non-profit bit is that I want to keep the dolls as low as possible price-wise, so that they're more accessible to people, because I don't want price to be a factor into someone not having a doll.
That's really interesting, and again, I think just touching on some of the barriers that, because not-for-profits obviously, and all businesses actually obviously face barriers, whether that be from shipping, taxes, on an international scale. Because I think when I was doing a bit of research, you've had dolls that inquiries from as far away as Australia. So what sort of barriers would you say that Bright Ears faces in that regards?
Shipping, we've not had a problem so far. The dolls seem to be arriving okay in other destinations. The biggest barrier I'm facing at the minute is the lack of other ethnicity dolls. Manufacturers are just not making other ethnicity dolls, and it's really bad actually, because I'm trying to represent and promote inclusiveness, and I can't represent a huge section of our population, because toy manufacturers are not making these dolls in the first place, and that's really
interesting. I'll be totally honest, Claire, I had no idea that was such a massive issue in the sense that they're not being manufactured, because they should be. They totally should be. And have you sort of been in touch with any of the manufacturers that you use and asked the question, or?
So the one that I use for the dolls where I put medical devices on, I've emailed them and I get no response. They're just not interested. And a lot of manufacturers claim that they've made other ethnicity dolls before, but nobody buys them, so it's not profitable for them to make them. It leaves it to more sort of bespoke doll makers to make them, but the problem with that is that they're so expensive. I've done my bits to them. It just puts the price of them out of people's price range. And also, why should you have to pay more for a black doll than a white doll? Is the other? It's just not there.
And that again would bring up a whole host of issues that are certainly very topical at the moment as well. So I think just touch on the aims of Bright Ears then, Claire. So what are you hoping to achieve as an organisation, as Bright Ears? What are the goals and aspirations for the company?
So it's a bit of a strange one, because I'm not going to say I want to be the world leader in making inclusive dolls. What I would really like is if toy manufacturers saw what I was doing and thought, oh, actually, there is a market there. We should be harnessing this and making our own dolls, because they've got bigger manufacturing facilities. distribution networks. You know, they've got contracts with shops and that they've got a wider network to get these dolls out there, much more than what I could do. So it's a bit strange, but what I'm basically saying is I want toy manufacturers to just take this idea and just run with it.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good aim for the company, because I, you know, as a father myself, I'm always spending time in, say, Smith's toy store, you know, outlets, and I've never come across anything even similar, even remotely similar to what yourself and Bright Ears are doing. But there is such a market for it now more than ever. I really feel now more than ever is the time where, as an industry and actually just as a society, we can really promote inclusivity in all forms. And especially when, again, hearing loss isn't so common in children, but it's certainly common enough to, you know, people will probably know someone who has a hearing loss. And it is, as a country, really common. I think it's around 1 in 8 have hearing loss. I think is just absolutely staggering. So yeah, I think just touching on those aims, a manufacturer could certainly, with their, you know, with their routes to market and their contacts and then contracts with stores, do such a phenomenal job of taking this to the absolute maximum, which I think is, from our standpoint, would be absolutely incredible. I do feel. So just touching on, I guess, the support. Obviously, you said that this is, you know, so it's a one-man band sort of thing, or a family organisation. What sort of support have you had then, Claire, from the audiology community, or, you know, the deaf awareness community? What sort of support has your business had?
Surprisingly, I've not had much interest from audiology departments. Teachers of the deaf are very keen for the dolls. They purchase the dolls. But yeah, audiology, it's a bit odd. But yeah, I don't get any interaction with them, which I find weird, because I would have thought these dolls would be good in audiology departments for, say, children of like sort of 3 to 5 year olds.
Yeah. If
they find out they need hearing aids, I think it's a good way of showing them what they would look like on their head and stuff, because you can sort of show the hearing aid in the box, but to a sort of 4-year-old, that's not really going to mean much to them. Whereas if they saw something that had the hearing aid on with the ear mold, it's a visual representation of what the hearing aid is going to look like, and I think that would help.
Of course. Yeah, and you'll certainly know more than I will on this, Claire. It must be an incredibly daunting time as a child, and also as a parent, actually, when you're having a hearing aid fitted as a pediatric patient. So I completely agree with you in the sense that would, I guess, reduce a lot of the anxiety and actually normalize it a little bit more if they could see from a doll from their pediatrician or their pediatric audiologist with the NHS department, for them to see that on a doll. So yeah, I think just touching on that, I think that it makes so much sense, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And it's a shame that they're not sort of taking advantage of that.
Yeah, and I certainly hope that this interview, this video, will actually prompt, you know, a little bit of a movement. Again, I hope you know, absolutely want to change the world, change this. I care so much about it and the inclusivity aspect of it. So certainly I'm hoping a few contacts in my market, especially some of the manufacturers of the hearing aids that we work with as a company. But we also work with all of the cochlear implant manufacturers as well. Which again, so you do cochlear implants and hearing aids as well, don't you? Just on the deaf things with the dolls.
I'm on Bahas as well, so they're coming along.
Yeah, oh, brilliant. But you also do quite a lot of other conditions as well, don't you, Claire?
Yeah, so I make dolls with stomas and feeding tubes, and NG tubes, which are feeding tubes that go in through the nose, tracheostomies. So I try, if a parent contacts me and says my child has this device, can you help? Then I will always try my best to see if we can do it.
And would you mind just touching on the manufacturing process then, Claire? So when you purchase the dolls, how do you then manufacture it so that the cochlear implant or the stone bag, or how would that be fitted onto the doll? Because I'm assuming, do correct me if I'm wrong, but do the dolls just come, say, just as a standard doll, and you make modifications?
So it's just a standard doll. So I have to use sort of particular ones that I can take apart and get inside them, so that I can go the devices. Because every toy in the UK needs to have the CE mark. That's regardless of whether it's handmade or in a shop. They all need to go through the safety tests. So whatever I do, it has to be safe to pass these tests, so it can carry the CE mark. So that I've just basically used a huge variety of materials. A lot of stuff I just make myself from scratch. Medical supplies, I sometimes sort of tweak them a bit to try and create what I need. So yeah, it's a bit of everything really to create these dolls.
Oh, brilliant. And just on that, how long would it normally take you, say, per doll?
So some dolls are quicker than others. Hearing aid dolls probably take about up to 2 hours to shape the hearing aids and everything. Cleft lip dolls, they take quite a while as well, because they need to be perfect in terms of presenting the trials. So yeah, it can sort of be up to 2 to 3 hours sometimes for a doll.
Oh wow! And how's business been then? Obviously with the coronavirus pandemic and whatnot, how are the business levels in terms of the activity? Has it been picking up even more?
The last week, it's really shot through the roof, because we received quite a lot of media coverage from the BBC.
Yes.
And myself and my daughter Tilly, we were on the evening news, BBC News. So awareness of these dolls and Bright Ears has just completely gone through the roof.
Brilliant.
And so I've just kind of been plodding along before, and now it's just huge, the interest.
And that must have been an incredibly proud moment for you, Claire, as a business owner and also as a mother, to have featured on BBC News.
So yeah, it was more a sort of, from my point of view, I want to get awareness for these inclusive dolls out there. So it wasn't really a case of, I can sort of plug my business. It was like, this is a chance to say, come on, toy manufacturers, you need to start doing this. So that was the opportunity. And a lot of people have emailed me to say, I never realised, I've never seen a doll like this before. Now I've seen one, why, I've realised now, why aren't they in the shop? So a lot of people, it's kind of like a light bulb moment for a lot of people.
Of course, for so many people. And I think just touching on that and the reaction after featuring on the BBC, how has that reaction been in terms of, has that generated a lot of leads for you? And again, just touching on the emails, have any sort of companies or anything like that reached out to yourself?
No companies, unfortunately. It's just a lot of sort of individuals, saying, I've never, like I said, never seen a doll like this. Or there's one that, particularly adults with cleft lips, have messaged to say, I really wish there was a doll like this around when I was little, because I might not have felt the difference. So
yeah, that's it. And I think just touching on that, obviously the BBC News has, I guess, been a real high point of the business. So just going all the way back to the start and looking at, I guess, on a timeline, how has the business progressed? Has it been quite a steady progression, or is it just absolutely, gone from strength to strength on a massive upwards trajectory?
So I'd say slow and steady, which is fine, because I was working full time until last September, and then I took time off to be a carer. So it's fine. It's sort of just plodded along next to my job, and then it's just the last sort of couple of months, it's really taken off to the point where it is literally a full-time job at the minute. So it's just why I'm not working at the minute.
And have you received, I guess, support from your family in terms of, do you think that will be the next progression for the company, in terms of maybe bringing on a family member to help you from that regard, maybe from a business perspective in terms of advertisement or different platforms?
It's a really tricky one, because it's only me. I don't really want to advertise too much, because it's going to bring in too much
of course
work. I know this sounds completely strange. So going back to the original aim was that I want toy manufacturers to basically take this on. So it's just it's more trying to get the awareness out there that these dolls are needed. you know, to be made on a bigger scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I couldn't agree with you more. And I guess, you know, looking at the business as a whole, what would you say has been your absolute favourite moment since starting Bright Ears?
It's hard to pick one moment because there's been so many, but it's just the when parents send me a photo of their child when they see the doll for the first time, or a video. It's just the smile on this child's face that they have this doll in front of them that looks just like them. It's so hard to explain. It's just a look of pure joy in their faces.
Yeah. I imagine that's so heartwarming, and it gives you, you know, the clarity that this is such a good thing to do, and I guess filling you with that purpose to really, you know, the motivation to just keep carrying on and keep doing all this good, which is so obviously needed in society at the moment. But I think, you know, I think we've had a really good chat in discussing the company and where, you know, where yourself and where you want it to be. So Claire, I just want to take this moment just to say, you know, thank you for sitting down with me, but also thank you for doing this with Bright Ears. Because I think, personally, I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's just so well needed in society at the moment. So, I'd like to extend a special thank you for, you know, carrying on and really driving such a brilliant company.
Thank you. That means a lot to hear that. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I'll certainly going to be posting this to my network. And we can go from there and absolutely touch base. So again, Claire, I'd just like to thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you for speaking with me as well.